We're back in the New York groove. No, we're back with part 2 of the Let's Play, and now we're going to get moving. So if you haven't seen part 1, please watch part 1. Without it, a lot of this won't work. If you don't have the patch and you haven't gone into options and done the right things there, you won't have control of the trains and the game will crash on September the 1st. So make sure you've seen part 1 and at least got to that point. Right, now we're going to get going. Now the main way of making money in A Trains 9 is trains. So we're going to get a station. So I'm just going on in the background there. Now you can have stations of various different sizes. Click here, you can have small, medium or large. This is going to be a small station. The station size dictates how big its area of influence is and how the economy might respond to that station, how big an area of land might have its economy influenced by the station. This up here isn't going to be a major area for us. We're not going to be developing up here. It's going to have things like our power stations, and if we need a second or third factory, they'll go up here. We're not really that bothered about developing it for human use, if you like. So if I just pop down here, now you can see here there's a green circle around this station, and that shows you its area of influence as far as picking up and dropping goods. If you look at the top, if I just move up here a little bit, right, you'll see the factory at the top there. It's blue, and when I move too far away, it goes back to green, which is my own company colour, blue, and it's green. While it's blue, anything made in this factory can be picked up by a train at this station. So, and you need that to happen, so you've got to make sure it's blue. Right, I'm not sure whether that is also this green circle or is also the area of influence for the station economically. I think that is actually a little bit bigger. This is just it for logistics purposes. Okay, now the station's not facing the right way. I'm using the middle mouse button, which is the default, and there are 16 orientations for the station, and that's the one I want. Facing straight down. But I don't want that station, sorry. I want small, yeah, platform length 6, yeah, number of platforms, tracks, I'm going to want 3. And the reason I want 3 is this is going to be a hub for 3 different boroughs of the city to start off with. Some people say 3 different cities, but eventually when this map's full, it will be 3 different boroughs of the same city. And I click, and that's in place. Okay, next I'm going to want to lay some track. Now I'm still on, I'm going to click pause here, I should click pause before that. The AI, although it doesn't compete with you directly in terms of starting up its own companies, it does build buildings, it does build roads, put up farms and things like that, and it will do it right in front of your track. So it's a good idea to begin with to lay some track away from the station's area of influence. So it's very unlikely that the AI will build anything major in front of where you're going to want to put your track, because if it does do that and you have to demolish it, it's going to cost you a small fortune. In fact, it's going to cost you quite a big fortune. So I've clicked on track, and there you can hit track or road. Staying on track, I'm moving my mouse pointer over one of the lines and it goes yellow. Left clicking, then dragging. I'm just moving this around a little bit, moving out. That's probably fine. Then click to confirm, and I'm going to do the same with the other 2 lines of this station. So then we'll have, there's a bit of a gap here, because if you look, there's another platform between the first 2 lines and the third, so it's a bigger gap. What we're also going to do now is I'm going to put a couple of junctions in here, and junctions are entities. I mentioned entities in video 1. There we are. I'm going to have it so trains can move, there we are, from one line to another. It doesn't offer every alternative there. For instance, it's not possible for a train to move from line 1 to line 3. If it's coming back, it's stuck. It can only move in one direction. You'd have to have more junctions. But each of these junctions is an entity, and then what I mentioned in the first video about this being sort of an object-orientated game, that will become apparent later when we look into how the game treats these junctions. You've actually created little nodes which you can address. You click on and address and set various rules to. All of this is opened up when you use this option up here. Right, and then we're going to take this one and we're going to gradually, I'm going to use it in 2 different sections so I can do a nice gradual curve rather than try and do it in one go and not have the control I want. Have this so it's roughly going 90 degrees to the original station platform to begin with. So it's now facing away roughly at 90 degrees. Let's have a look. I'm going to disappear this off into the wide blue yonder. One line, and let's go. Keep it nice and simple to begin with. There's plenty of complication we can be adding later, but that's not the aim of the game for now. Let's go. Right, let's have a look at that then. Okay, that's great. That's marvellous. We'll just drag over to that. Right, we're over here near these mountains now. So we're a long way. Looking back, you can barely see where we started from. Here you're going to need another station. Trains can only stop at stations. This one is only going to need to be a 2 platform station. One of these platforms is going to be for freight, the other one is for passengers. We can add other stations, we can get really quite complex with stations. We can have it appear as if you've got a station with 30 or 40 platforms by butting some of these together. If you look at the, I think it's a medium-sized station. No, maybe it's a large one. There's various options to make it look as if you've got much wider stations than you already have. You can have up to 7 platforms, and you can put one facing one way and one facing the other to have a 14 platform station. Then you can have small stations in the middle, or the marshalling yards in the middle, so you can have almost unlimited number of platforms. It is actually made up of more than one station, but to all intents and purposes it's just whatever you want it to be. It will look and act as if it's one massive, humongous station, as big as you like. I'm not going to do that because it really is complicated and gives you a headache. Right, so we have a 2 platform small station. Again, we'll orientate it right. Make sure we stick to the inner line, because the outer line is going to be our passenger line. And shall we have it that way around, or shall we have that? No, we'll have it that way around. Okay, and we're off. Now, the other thing you're going to need is this train's going to be coming along here. It's going to want to drop off its cargo. It needs somewhere to drop its cargo off. It needs a depot. It needs a goods yard. So we click in construction and then go to material factories. It's a bit misleading, as quite a few of these menus are. I think it's because they're short, really. You've got the 3 factories at the top, and underneath the 3 factories, under material factories, you've got 3 that are just the yards. I always pick the largest yard to begin with, and once again it's got an influence range. If you look, when it's inside the green circle, it's within the influence range of the station. I push it outside, it's not. I want it right on the edge of there. Another problem that people sometimes have is that they say that the AI stops building buildings at a certain size, and the reason is, if you use these smaller warehouses, they only have a certain amount of goods. Each one of these spots, I think, can have 4 containers on. So this has got 16 times 4, it can have 64 containers. Well, a lot of the buildings take a lot more than 64 containers to build, and all the material has to be allocated when the decision is made. So it can never build a building that needs more than 64, and about 2/3 of the big one, all the big ones up here, need more than that. And so you're constricting the AI's ability to build if you stick with this. With this one, there's some of the multi-story buildings, even this one can't build, but there are things of getting around that, and that's quite late into the game. But for now, we're giving the AI and myself the ability to build just about whatever size thing we want. Once this is filled with material, you can't build until it's got material. So I'm going to leave that now. I'm going to use the mini-map, double-click to go back to where we started. And there we go. You can drag with, hold down the left mouse button and drag, button and drag, right mouse button to tilt, mouse wheel is zoom in and out. There's keyboard shortcuts as well. Okay, now we're going to have a train. I'm going to click on train. And here's your empty train slots, and it will grow as many as you like. It starts with 20, 0 to 19 inclusive. Click the bottom and buy. The first sort of train we're going to want is a goods train. It's a goods train. Without transporting those goods, you can't build anything at our new borough. So we want a goods train that can go at a reasonable rate of knots and take goods from the factory and take it to our new borough. Down here you can see the cruising speed going forward and the cruising speed in reverse. It's best to have it fully loaded when it's going forward, and then because it'll be doing some dead journeys at the weekends going backwards. We'll come to that in a minute. Reverse speed is not so important, but make sure it's facing the right way when it leaves the factory, because then you'll get the most benefit. 95 is pretty good. I like the blue colour. We'll have that. Lovely. Now click off that, and you see that is now that train. If I now click on that train, it lets me place it. Wonderful. So now if I pop down here to the line, I'm going to place it, and it's going to be on this track because this is the track that goes right. It's facing the wrong way, so I'm going to turn it around. There you are. The train is now facing the right way, and the arrow means that's the direction of travel when it starts. It can go with the train can push or pull, so you could have the train facing with the engine at the left of the train, and it still try and go the other direction. You can go either way, but this is it's all controlled here. I place it, and there it is. Okay, lovely. Now, when you first set a train, right at the beginning of the game, there is a pause for about a day or two when the game sort of, for the very first train you set, where the game sort of tries to work out what the dickens you're trying to do. What we're going to do now, I'm going to show you in this video the easiest way to get your first train running. So I'm going to click on Timetable Assistant, and this little dialog comes up. I'm going to click yes. Okay, now this will come up, and this is the object settings for this train at this platform, not even at this station. Operating mode, you can have stop, which means the train will stop at this station. You can have it set to particular departure time, drive through the station, in other words it's just a through train, doesn't stop. You can set multiple different arrival and departure times. If this train's going to arrive more than once a day, you can set it so it only leaves at specific times. Perhaps you want to do that because you're using the line for other vehicles and you don't want them to interfere. Although the game does signalling quite well. It handles it all. It doesn't let two trains in the same block anyway. It has a simple wait method. You can have wait for arrival, so wait for another arrival of another train at the station, wait for a train from the opposite direction, or wait for a passing train, a train that's passing through. We just want it to stop. Very simple. Departure direction, we're going to want the train to turn around every time it gets to this station because it's going to be coming up, then we want to turn around and go back. Freight handling, it's by default set for loading and unloading. So I've clicked on this arrow. When it gets here, I only want it to load. I don't want it ever to bring stuff back to the factory. There are some odd circumstances mid and late game where I might want to do that, but they're very rare, and it's normally a result of me making a mistake. Then the daily timetable, all year round. However, I don't want it to work daily. I want it to work on work days, not on Sunday or Saturday. The reason for that is the factory doesn't produce on those days, and I would risk the train running empty. Now, trains when they run cost money. That's fine if they're taking the goods and performing a function. If they're running on empty and not performing any useful function for you, and not only is a goods train not making any money, it's costing you money for nothing. It's not giving you any benefit. So that's the way that's going to work. Now I'm going to press continue, and I'm going to let the game zoot off. And then there's always a pause here. It's only for the first train you place. I don't know why it does it. I think it perhaps waits for the clock to tick over to the next day for the first time you do it. Not 100% sure what the deal is. Let's see if it's going to get going at some point. Actually, I'll just zip it straight up just to push it on. There you go. Now I'm going to put it back down to reasonable speed. Now why it does that, the very first train you set, I don't know. It's whizzed on. It hasn't come across any junctions because none of it were facing it as it arrives, and it's arrived at station 001. The last station was 000. 000 is 001. I want it here to stop, turn around, unload only, and I want this to do this all year or every day, because it may leave the warehouse factory station late on a Friday and get here on Saturday. I still want it to make the return journey, and it will then be trapped at the warehouse and factory station until Monday morning when it will be released again. So I want it to be able to go back and load. I just don't want it to go back again empty, because it would always be empty when it goes back to load, so that's not a concern. So that's every day. I'm having daily, so it's Monday through to Friday. I'm going to put this speed back down to there and click continue. Okay, it's not going to do anything, and now it's just going to turn around and reverse back. It reverses slower than it goes. I'm just going to leave the timetable assistant on because I've got a feeling it's going to come across some junctions I'm going to need to sort out on the way up. If you remember, I'll put some junctions up here, and I think some of them are facing it where it's got choices to make. Here we go. You can see the little arrow. Do you want to go straight on? There's a bit of overlapping text there. If I change that, turn off, you see that little blue arrow moves to the right. But I don't want it to turn off. I want it to go straight on. Cancel that, actually. Continue. And then continue, and then I'm going to close Timetable Assistant, and that's it done. Now that train is going to work. There you go, it's filled up this time. If I go to follow, the train now has the factory's produced some goods and it's going to be plonking them there. So there's our first train running, taking goods to our first borough. Very simple. Okay, that's another 15-minute Let's Play. Hopefully that's got your first train up and running, and we'll have more tomorrow. Squitty signing off.